Happy Easter, folks. Welcome into Flyover Footy's Fallout. Joined by Santiago Beltran. I'm Matt Baker for the live stream. Good to be with you. Good to wake up to at least a point. Right, Santi?
Yeah, something new, you know. It's been a while.
It's been a while. It's been a month and 5 days by my count. I think
Wow, that's
March
crazy.
15th was when we played the Seattle Sounders and had the last time we took at least a point.
Things have changed a lot since March 15.
It's been a dry spell. Uh, but this game actually it didn't turn out at all how I thought it was going to turn out. I was quite shocked, in fact, at how effective our defense was, getting back to almost back to basics in what we were able to do. I don't know.
Yeah, it was a great performance by the defense, and considering Henry Kessler was a last-minute scratch.
Yeah, that one's the bummer of the night, isn't it?
Yeah, it was. I was a little concerned when I learned he was out, but I like how the guys who play center back stepped up and did a great job.
Agreed. Agreed. You ready to get to the pod recording? That
Let's
way
do it.
we get folks out of here. I'm sure anybody who wakes up with us to talk about City on Sunday morning isn't in too big of a hurry to do much else. But at the same time, it is Easter. We'll let you get back to family and friends and all that good stuff. So yeah, let's get going with the pod recording. Welcome everyone to Flyover Footy. My name is Matt Baker, joined as always by my friend in soccer, Santiago Beltran, for another Flyover Footy Fallout. This look at a 0-0 draw, St. Louis City to the Vancouver Whitecaps at Energizer Park. And it was a match unlike what we really expected to see. There was a lot of effectiveness on the defensive side, pretty good amount of chances created by the offense. And I think we walk away from this one with an uplifted spirit a little bit. We're still frustrated at the lack of goal scoring. We're still frustrated that we can't take 3 points at home. But contextually, I think this one doesn't hurt as bad as the last few games. And it probably is our best feeling draw out of the bunch so far. So welcoming in Santiago Beltran, who is on the call. Santi, how you doing?
Doing great, Matt, and yeah, obviously some good things. The team got a point, but yeah, it's still that disappointment of not getting 3 points. But it's good to see the team doing well defensively and creating some attacking opportunities against the best team in the league. Supporter Shields leader, and they had to score a lot of goals. And Brian White came into his game with a great streak after scoring 4 goals, and he wasn't seen for most of the game. So good performance, as you said, leaves a good feeling. But again, like the team is winless in 5 games, and didn't score last night. So yeah, lots of things to improve, but it was a good showing against one of the best teams in the league.
Absolutely. We'll talk about all the different moments and some of the bigger highlights in just a moment. But let's start like we usually do, Santi, with our starting 11. And this one shocked a lot of people right off the bat, and it required another City disclaimer to post alongside the starting 11. So Ben Lunt was in net. That was expected. Our back three was Kyle Hebert, Timo Baumgartel, and Josh Yarrow. That was unexpected. We had Conrad Wallem on the left wing back side, Marcel Hartle and Alfredo Morales for our center mids. Akil Watts was our right wing back. Celio Pompeu, Klaus, and Cedric Toyshirt were our attacking trio. A lot of it was similar to what we thought. The use of Conrad Wallem on the left wing back side. We thought he might go with Wallem on the right wing back, Hebert as a left wing back, just because that's what he did last week. Olaf Melberg, that is. And so you wonder what the last minute issue that ended up occurring. You wonder how much that actually changed. Was it strictly a like for like sub, Timo Baumgartel for Henry Kessler, or did a few more things slide around? And if you didn't hear about it, it was Henry Kessler injured at training on Friday, and so he was taken out of the starting 11 very late in the day sub, hoping he'd be able to get right, get worked in, but he wasn't able to go. And it sounds like it went from bad to worse when they were hoping he might be good to go, and then they found out what the actual issue was, because as I asked Olaf Melberg post game, Henry Kessler has a grade 2 hamstring injury, and he's expected, per Olaf Melberg, to be out for a month or so. But if you look around the interwebs, it's looking like 6 to 8 weeks as an average recovery time for that kind of an injury. We don't know what the timeline looks like for return to training, much less for rehab, fitness levels. We're looking at Henry Kessler not being a part of this club until potentially end of May into June, in full at least, as he regains all the fitness once he recovers from his injury. Santi, how, before we get into what actually happened in the game, because this was a brighter spot than we thought given the injury, but uh, thoughts on the Kessler loss?
It is a big loss for sure. Kessler was the only player who had played all the minutes in the previous 8 games, and he had been a great leader for the defense. So when I learned he was going to be out, I was concerned. And playing against Vancouver, who have scored a lot of goals, it was a big concern. But Timo Baumgartner did a great job as the middle center back. So it's good to know that there is an option there, especially considering Kessler will be out for so long. I think it's gonna be more than 4 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, you said that the armchair doctors already said 6 to 8 weeks. So yeah, let's say six at least.
Yeah,
But yeah, the good news is Baumgartner did a good job, and then you have Joachim Nilsson, who is back in training. Hopefully,
trending.
he'll be available for the next game or maybe for the following game. But you have options. One thing we have talked about before is the amount of center backs the team has, and you just have to go into that next man up mentality, and the guys who may get more opportunities, hopefully they stepped up. But what we saw last night was a great defensive performance by the center back, so that was good to see.
And the topic at this point, because it was the second in a fairly recent memory of a Friday injury at training, the topic naturally turns to what's going on with these Friday trainings. And credit to our friend Charlie, who asked the question post game, that he asked the question of Ben Lunt, because after Olaf Melberg gave his comments, Charlie asked Ben, who spoke post game, about trainings, and is there anything, uh, because this was also sparked by a tweet or a post on X by Taylor Twellman, who commented that when he talks to players, they tell him that they train 11v11, which is abnormal. And so there's a lot of speculation going on about, does the training ramp up at the end of the week, and do they go a little harder on Fridays than most other teams, and how is this happening so often? Not just hamstring injuries, because yeah, they've been adding up a little bit, but also now this is the second major injury for an extended period of time on a Friday training. And the best comment we got from Ben Luntz is that the intensity of the trainings is not harder on Friday in comparison to the rest of the week. Ben Luntz said that they train harder on Tuesdays and Wednesdays than they do on Friday. And he completely wrote it off to bad luck. Has nothing to do with the overall intensity, the 11v11 aspect, whether they do 11v11s on Friday or not. We don't see that. They always do things after we get to see part of their trainings on the Friday or one of the last trainings of the week. I've never seen them do 11v11 later in the week. And Ben Lunt had said very specifically post game that they train harder on Tuesdays and Wednesdays than they do on Fridays. And he, like I said, chalks it up to bad luck. I felt like it's important to address that because this is going to be a lingering topic of conversation, is how do these injuries keep happening? There's going to be a lot of heat on the training staff, on the physios, but I don't know what to say other than sometimes these things happen.
Yeah, an injury can happen anytime. If it had not happened on Friday, could have happened sometime next week. But at the same time, yeah, it just leaves you thinking, okay, why is the team doing 11v11 on Friday? Should Friday be like a more loose session, maybe more recreational, go over some of the tactics, but maybe the fact that it's 11v11, that maybe it could be bad luck, as Ben Lund said. But since you do 11v11, you always have that risk of somebody getting injured. But at the same time, it can happen any time on the week, but it just has some risk because if something happens, then you have to modify your formation that you already have um, settled on and some tactics. But the injuries can happen anytime and are part of the game at the end of the day.
And to be very specific, Taylor Twellman said they quote, they train 11v11 a lot from what the players have told me. So he's not saying they train 11v11 on Fridays. He's just
Mm,
from what he's hearing from the players, apparently, which second time Taylor's made a comment about what the players have told him. This is an
mm,
interesting trend developing after the Indiana Vasilev sale. But that does not directly mean they train 11v11 on Friday. And uh, the other thing is think about the two types of injuries that have happened on Fridays. It's it was obviously the Kessler hamstring injury, but Berkey's fractured finger has nothing to do with the intensity of training. So
true.
I get the idea of wanting to draw correlations to the causations of what's happening, and two Friday injuries is concerning, and you do have to, I think, at some point evaluate what's going on, if not between the two Berkey and Kessler injuries, because I don't think there's a way you can draw correlations to those two. But
Hmm.
looking at, especially as the season progresses, the load, the way you're managing some of these later in the week trainings, uh, if you're not trying to get guys fit, going 11v11 full field, uh, maybe backing off a little bit in the lead up to the game. Not a doctor, don't pretend to be one, but this is going to be the conversation that progresses. I just don't want to draw correlations to those
Yeah.
two Friday injuries. That's a coincidence to me, is the fact that both of those happened on Friday to two major players. Uh, Beyond that, Santi, the other big story from this game happened around the 25-minute mark. It was
Mm.
Marcel Hartl's goal that wasn't. And now we have a situation where I think I saw the stat that we have more goals taken away from us in the past four games than we have
No.
actually scored.
That's true.
That's true. I think 2-1 is the tally on that front. This one wasn't just a goal taken away from us because of an offside call. This was enough to warrant a pool question put in by our friend Justin Horniker to Pro and the referees, and then requesting justification, or at least requesting a deeper dive into what actually happened, because we didn't get much from the in-stadium announcement other than it was Conrad Wallem who was ruled offside. And the video showed some interesting developments. If you're watching us on our live stream, I think we might have a little treat that I'm going to try to show right now. But if you're listening to us on our podcast, I'm going to walk you through it. The play started fairly normally out of the back, and it was played up to our left side with Celio Pompeu. A ball long from, I think that was Alfredo Morales. Celio takes the ball, kind of makes a great cutback move, looks to pass it into Klaus, who's making a cut from right to left. The ball is, I don't know, deflected, not controlled, as we'll see in just a second, over to Conrad Wallem. And Wallem throws it up, or crosses it up, and Marcel Hartl back post finds basically an open goal. That was, I mean, everybody was tucked in. Hartl found the ball, and he was good to go, essentially. So the goal stood, and then they went to video review. It was kind of the opposite from last week, where they didn't immediately throw up a flag. They went to video review, and so they had to make a clear and obvious overturn of this call. The problem with this one was the clear and obviousness relates to a defensive move that was made, and not just the fact that Conrad Wallem was offside. I will show also on our live stream what the comment was from Pro in response. And the question specifically that was asked, which credit to Justin, because I told him post game, you got to ask these specific questions, and this was fantastic. The question was, upon review of Marcel Hartl's goal in the 25th minute, it was determined that Conrad Wallem was in an offside position. During the run-up to the play, it appeared that the defender attempted to make a play on the ball. What was the final determination as to why it was not a deliberate attempt to play the ball? And this is what I'm showing is the answer to that, which was the defender in question made an instinctive stretch or reach for the ball, which resulted in limited control of the ball. While this was a deliberate action by the defender, by law, this is considered a deflection and not a deliberate play. The VAR was correct to recommend a review for offside in the attacking phase of play. The referee was correct to accept the recommendation and disallow the goal. Santi, what's the difference between a deliberate action and a deliberate play?
I have no idea.
That's what it boils down to, right? I mean, like if you look at the exact reasoning they gave, which is a specific reason. I mean, I was impressed initially by the specificity of what they actually gave us here, but it was a deliberate action by the defender. So by law, they say it's considered a deflection. A deflection is not a deliberate play. And this looks
Hmm.
to IFAB Law 11, Section 2, for anyone who wants to go in and look at what that is. It's an offside offense, and it's talking about what a deliberate play is when a player has control of the ball with a possibility of passing the ball to a teammate, gaining possession of the ball, or clearing the ball. Example, by kicking or heading it. Now, that's where it gets a little dicey to me, is they are making, I'm going to pull this comment back up again so you can read it. They're making a distinction between a deliberate action and a deliberate play.
Hmm.
And in the law, it uses the word deliberate play, and that they define a deliberate play as passing the ball to a teammate, gaining possession of the ball, or clearing the ball by kicking or heading it. The way that the deflection occurred, as they refer to it, was not to clear it. It was not to pass it to a teammate. It was not to gain possession of the ball. It was just to deflect it from where Celia was passing to Klaus. That's the best explanation that I could use to draw what they were even possibly talking about. But the specific reasoning of calling it a deliberate action and not a deliberate play, trying to make the law make sense, is where I have the problem with it. And the eye test makes it worse because you get to the point where you're making soccer way more complicated than you need to. Like, I get that there are nuances to the offside rule, and there's a lot of things to consider in, when the ball actually needs to be, like, when the moment of offside needs to be, when it comes down to, was it the moment Salio passed? Was it the moment that the Vancouver defender made contact with the ball? Because it deflecting, okay, but it completely changed the trajectory. The intention of Salio's pass was to reach Klaus. I would not bat an eye if that stat was counted as a clearance or a block or gaining possession, because they completely changed what Salio's intent of the ball was. I'm very frustrated by the application of this law and the way that the reasoning was given. I appreciate the specifics and that they tried to do, but they talked themselves into a word salad here, and it made it that much worse.
Yeah, I don't see it as a deflection. Yeah, it's a good explanation, but it still leaves a lot of question marks. But at the end of the day, that's what was decided. Yeah, it could have changed the game. Yeah, City was unfortunate to be on the bad end of that decision, but that's what you have to play against. And sometimes you get them in your favor. Doesn't happen very often for
This is
City.
where Whitecaps really don't know who to pick him up.
Yeah, I'm going to show this one more time for our live
Moon's
stream.
got
But
to get away from Brian White.
the biggest problem I think a lot of people have is,
now the switch is on.
the way that the
Morales
defender
pings it
does
wide to
kind of
Pompeo.
keep the ball
The young
to
Brazilian
themselves. And it was
cuts
Conrad
inside.
Wallem, to his
Pompeo
credit,
leaves it on the
who was right in the perfect spot to
played out by
retake
Blackman.
possession of the ball.
Wallem knocks it up.
And I would
Wide
say
open in the
retake,
box.
because that Vancouver could have just as easily pounced on that ball. It was loose. Possession was lost by City at that point. And, I think Wallem had a heads up play to retake possession. I can only refer to it as retake possession.
Hmm.
And if Vancouver gained possession, or at least disrupted City enough to make them lose possession, you can't have an offside call on a reestablishing of possession. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me either, but that's what the referee ruled, and just have to continue playing and hoping that you get that goal at some point. But yeah, it's obviously disappointing. It will have been Hartel's second goal of the season, which I was talking to
Mm.
somebody yesterday from the Apple broadcast. We're like, you guys only have guys with one goal. Nobody has more than one. And I was like, and I was thinking this morning, how many games are gonna go without City having a 1+ goal scorers, and now we went one more.
Yeah, it's starting to get a little ridiculous. And when you've got on the other side, Vancouver, Brian White has 6 goals, and that's more than our entire team.
Yeah, it's crazy.
All right, we've belabored that point long enough. I think we can move on, and it'll continue to be discussed throughout the week. But there were some other more positive stories, I think, that you take away from this game, mainly on the defensive side, and it was a massive defensive performance by City. They held Vancouver to their second lowest expected goals of the year, and they gave them their third most expected goals against all season. The expected goals on the City side came throughout, so it wasn't just one block of moments. They had set pieces. They had a few run of plays that worked out well. And the biggest thing is the possession for St. Louis. We weren't in that 20 to 30% range. It was a lot better from a St. Louis City perspective, getting up near the 50% mark, 48 in the first half, I think it was. So there was a lot more on the ball work. There was a lot better on the ball work. And we started to see the development of some quality City transitional moments. Better passing overall is a theme to me. I thought we had more effective passing to get the ball through Vancouver's defense, and that coincided with more possession. So we were doing a good job of retaking and retaining possession and using our midfielders to move it up. Alfredo Morales, Marcel Hartl. Hartl was moving on both the left and the right side. So I think he did a good job of connecting on both wings, both phases of the field. And it was just impressive that they were doing such a better job than they had been with the same kind of personnel. We didn't have Thomas Totland back. We didn't have Giannis Horn back, two players who are very good on the ball and can help progress it. But we did have Kyle Hebert and Josh Yaro as our wide center backs, and they were pushing higher than they usually had been, doing a pretty good job in setting the stage for where we were, if not on goal kicks, but at least playing it out of the back, where we were actually beginning our possession. Because I've said it before, the thing about this 3 center back look and Olaf Melberg is if you're going to have your center backs play the ball and you're going to have a width between your left, right, and central center backs, you need to push the ball higher. You need to take space so that when you're first getting the ball into your central midfield or out to your wings, or even sending it long, you're not dealing with 90 yards of the field, 100 yards of the field. You're dealing with a more tight, controlled space. And by moving the ball up, you're going to pull the defense towards you and you're going to help free up others. There's a lot of good things that happen if you have center backs willing to take the space given to them and play it out of the back by progressing the ball up just a little bit. And we saw that by Kyle Hebert and Josh Yaro, both with pretty advanced positions when it came to their average positioning, when it came to where they were passing from. That was, I would say, surprising, right?
It was, but it's good to see players like Heber and Yarrow doing that, taking the risk. Kyle Heber had the most touches in the game, 65, followed by Morales, Hartel, and then Josh Yarrow. So just those two center backs, and then your two central midfielders having the most touches, and Heber and Yarrow just progressing the ball. Is good to see both of them doing that, like evolving as center backs and evolving in this system, and also doing well defensively at the same time. So I was very impressed by Joe Jarro last night. He did a great job, and it's one of those things I was saying at the beginning. Yeah, your leader in the defense is out, and some players need to step up to the challenge, and Joe Jarro did that last night.
I think on the average positioning, the way these players were set up, you had a notable expansion of your wide center backs, a willingness to move up. You saw a lot of good things from Kyle Hebert, helping to initiate things with Conrad Wallem, pretty close together over on that left side. And then Marcel Hartl's average positioning was centrally, but I think that's because he was roaming on both wings quite a bit. Late in the second half, as we'll talk about, he moved over to a left back role when we were progressing the ball out of our goal, something that I found really good as a tactical adjustment that Olaf did in the second half in a way to build through Conrad Wallem using Marcel Hartl in a give and go. But you had Hartl moving over to the right side just as much, helping to progress from Josh Yaro, getting up to a keel. The only thing I really had a problem with in the way that I guess, positioning worked, we didn't get Cedric Choichert really involved in the game at all. He had 9 total passes, I think it was, and he was going missing for large periods of time. And I I don't tack that up to anything really that Toyshirt was doing. I tack that up to the fact that we were progressing the ball on our left side so much, getting the ball up through Klaus. So Toyshirt's positioning, I think, was a little maybe tucked in at times. And the only time I really noticed that or Toyshirt actually was when we dropped back into a 5-4-1 defense. And so in a set defense, whereas this passing model looks very much like a 3-4-3, on a set defense, we were dropping back into 5-4-1 at times when Vancouver had the ball in our attacking third. And that worked well to keep our lines tight, to create the width. I like that look. And I either referenced it or I intended to reference it as kind of an accordion of sorts for St. Louis City, where, especially in the second half, you noticed that we had a 5-4-1 on defense. And as soon as we retook possession or caused a turnover, you saw Klaus, Salio, and Toyshirt all immediately recognize it and start pushing up higher. Or as we're falling back into a 5-4-1, if we turn the ball over on the back line or on the wings, they would stay high and you'd see Hartle and Morales drop back a little bit. So that's something that I think is worth watching, both in a review of this game, but also going forward, is how St. Louis changes positioning quickly when possession changes. It's fascinating to me how they do drop back in the 5-4-1, but before they even get that, as they're dropping back to look at that, to get into that kind of look, watch Toyshirt, watch Salio, because those two in particular, there's a recognition and an awareness that they have and that they're getting better at. Because when they can make that kind of change so quickly, it impacts how quickly you're able to get the ball in transition and where they are higher up on the field waiting for those outlet passes.
Yeah, it was good performance overall. Just not scoring is just one thing that leaves disappointment. But yeah, just going back to your comments, yeah, Cedric Toychar didn't have a lot of touches, wasn't as involved as you would have liked to see. But the team did a good job against Vancouver. Just looking at what Toychar and Celio did. Also, Celio only had 22 touches between basically Celio and Toychart were, and aside from the subs, were at the bottom in touches. So yeah, obviously you always want to see your offensive players more involved. But I think the team is doing good things, and yeah, the points will eventually come. But it's just that, like, you are 9 games into the season, more than 25%. So at some point you have to start getting those wins and getting those goals. And yeah, it's early in the season, but at the same time there is some concern there.
Yeah, I think that the effectiveness of getting the ball to Toyshirt and Pompeu was kind of mitigated by the fact that we had, for instance, Marcel Hartle and Conrad Wallem so all over the field. I'm showing a stat for our live stream where it's Conrad Wallem was in the attacking zone as much, if not more, overall than he was in the defensive side. He had 42 touches, and you could see that he had a little bit of a consistent look on the left wing back side, but the amount of time he spent in the attacking zone was pretty impressive. Marcel Hartle was just all over the field, 62 touches. Most of them came on the right side. And the way that he was able to connect some of those lines and get the ball up to Klaus in particular was impressive. And I thought the overlapping work that our wingbacks did, Akil Watts on the right side, where he was living quite often in the attacking end. I mean, there is a huge green dot over in the attacking side on that right wing back. And he had 49 touches himself, Akil Watts. So, that was right up there, more than Conrad Wallem, even on the left. So this was a balanced City approach, more than we have seen maybe all season. At least it passes the eye test as extremely balanced when you're talking about our wing backs. And the work that they were doing on both sides was pretty impressive, even considering Conrad Wallem spent some time more in the midfield role here and there, especially in the second half. I think that City is kind of finding a way, if not by improving the quality of their players, but they're finding a way to actually improve the balance of their attack. The only thing I think they need to really work on is having more quality in the final third. They have the touches. This game was impressive in the passing, the final third passing, because especially in the first half, the final third passing, City actually had more than Vancouver. 34 final third passes to 33 by Vancouver. And the accurate passes, you were seeing more of a balance between City's own half and their attacking half, because that's been a problem in some of these losses. City will have an overwhelming number of their passes occur in their own half. In the first half, especially here, City had 85 passes in their own half, 61 in the opposition half. They're still having a little bit of a buildup in the back half, and that's not a problem, but 61 touches in the opposition half compared to Vancouver's 83 touches in the opposition half. The balance is shifting a little bit more, and that does directly relate to the amount of possession, which the Whitecaps in the first half had 52 to 48. So you're getting the more even you can get the possession, you can start to have some of these better numbers in your passing, and you can have better and more voluminous touches in your final third. Those are going to be important to just generate the volume of shot opportunities. Now, we still were outshot as far as the volume goes, 9-5, but we had more shots on target in the first half than Vancouver, 2-1. A lot of our shots came off that end of half, or a lot of our chances really came off that end of half volley. Couple free kicks, one to Hebert, one to Klaus. Did you think those actually had chances? And what did you think? Let's look at that. What did you think of the Marcel Hartl opportunity, sending those free kicks at the end of the first half? And did that for at least a moment make us forget that we were missing Edu Leuven?
Yeah. When City had that opportunity on that free kick, we were actually talking about it on the broadcast. It was a similar spot to when Edu Leuven scored against Vancouver in 2023.
Yeah.
And we were talking, oh, is he gonna like do one of those that maybe it's a cross or maybe it's a shot on goal and try to surprise Takaoka? And we were thinking more like far post, but in the end he went to the opposite side, and Klaus made a good play. I wish he would have had more contact, because he just had a slight contact, and then Takaoka was able to deflect it. But yeah, Marcel Hartel just showing how valuable he can be in the set pieces, and also kudos to Alex Langer, because I know the team works a lot on those set pieces, and he's the mastermind on those. What I didn't like is that on the second chance, and I could see Melberg was talking to Jaro, and Jaro like ran to Hartel and said something to him, and it looked like they went with the same play, like go to the near post, but it just didn't work that time. But yeah, I like what I saw from Hartel on set pieces. Obviously, we missed Edu Leuven, but yeah, you have players that can step up and do something similar. But yeah, great job on the first one. Just didn't like what was done for the second one.
Yeah, and I did like I like the shout out to Alex Langer there, because Ben Lunt post game also kind of gave credit to Alex Langer, the goalkeeper, coach, and the set piece specialist. Langer is one of those who's crafted a lot of the really fun set piece formations and attacks that we've run in the past. And the set piece was the main way that we were generating these chances. If you look at expected goals in the first half, 0.62 of our 0.7 expected goals were on set pieces, and they were on those last couple opportunities. So City very nearly had a chance to go into half up 1-0. And how that would have changed the game entirely, we can only speculate on. But it was good to see that energy carry through the first half. That's another one of these positives, is that this team is not giving up. This team is consistently through the first half withstanding what Vancouver had, because there were moments in the first half. First 8 minutes, Vancouver had 4 shots. 2 of them were blocked. You had a 19-minute Emmanuel Sabi really good opportunity, which is the highest Vancouver expected goal shot of the game at 19 minutes. And then 5 Vancouver shots between 16 and 38. So you're going long stretches of time without City having an offensive shot on goal or a shot, even if we like the buildup that's occurring and getting it from the back third to the middle third. But defensively, they were doing what they needed to do, and it enabled them to kind of absorb the pressure. And then at the end of the first half, they gave pressure of their own, and they could have had those moments, because those moments are going to be what change the entire landscape. Unfortunately, we didn't get that. But in the second half, I thought that Olaf Melberg took what he learned in the first half and kind of got a little more brave. We started to see more high pressing. We started to see the line stretch defensively, and we started to see a lot of folks initiating it. Not just Klaus Salio and Cedric Teuscher at the beginning of the second half, but you're seeing Marcel Hartl and Conrad Wallem move up into the attacking third to press Vancouver. I mean, and when you do that, I thought it was reminiscent of what we were waxing poetic about with Columbus last week, which is when one of your wing backs, one of your wide center backs moves forward and gets out of position and does what they need to do in the heat of the moment, like Conrad Wallem high pressing in the second half. You've got Akil Watts, who's willing to move back into more of a legit fullback role. Or you get Kyle Hebert, who's willing to spread himself wider, and you have everybody working a lot more cohesively than I think we have seen at times in the past. So if we keep this going and we have a little more individual freedom of quality, where you're letting Hartle do what he needs, you're letting Wallem do what he needs, and the players behind them have a better expectation of what their role is if a certain player moves, you're going to be a lot more dangerous, a lot more unpredictable. And I think for a player like Conrad Wallem, that is you can't really quantify how important that is, because Conrad Wallem, I think, is developing, and we're seeing him be one of the more elite St. Louis players on and off the ball. His recognition, his bravery. I want to know what you think of Conrad Wallem in particular, and not whatever way you want to take it, because the way he was pressing in the second half, that opened my eyes quite a bit to what that can open for City.
Yeah, Conrad Wallem has been a great addition to the team. Quietly, he does a great job, and I like how he moves around. He switches sides and can do different things for the team, and his versatility is great. And he's becoming one of the most important players in the team. When you look at stats after games, he's usually out there in touches and shot creating action. So yeah, it's been great to see a player like Wallem coming to the team and adapting so quickly, and he has been very important. Like he he links up with Wallem, I mean with Hartel or with Celio, the team can create chances, and I like what I'm seeing from him, and especially his versatility. He can play in different roles. He can play it on the right side. He can play it on the left side. That it's important to have a player like him with that skill and the way he can adapt to different game situations and different formations. I really like that. I have said a few times that um, the team could have done more on the winter transfer, but definitely getting Wallem was a great move for sure.
Yeah, and with Conrad Wallem in particular, the way in which we signed him via loan, as I understand it, that was the only way we could sign him. It's not just his contract wasn't up and he would have had to pay a transfer fee, but the value of Conrad Wallem was potentially higher than what we were willing or able to pay. I don't know that specifics, but it was to get his services. It was a 1-year loan that was required. And so I think when it comes to loan players, we're talking Giannis Horn, Simon Betcher, that we hope to pick up those options here Simon Betcher in the next few months. Giannis Horn as similar, but I think with Conrad Wallem, the team could look vastly different next offseason with contracts that are expiring, and it would not disappoint a single person. I'll say that, for us to sign Conrad Wallem to pick up that option, sign him full time. One thing I want to look at now, Santi, is, so you had the subs happen. You had various moments in the second half where Vancouver had 3 shots between 47 and 70, but 2 of them were blocked. Our defense was doing exactly what they needed to do. Vancouver made a sub at 62. It was an attacking player sub, Daniel Rios for Emmanuel Sabi. You had a couple good City opportunities with pretty high XG between Cedric Toyshirt and Timo Baumgartel at 71, 72. And then the subs came in, the only subs for St. Louis at 73. Mackay Joyner and Simon Betcher entered for Celio and Cedric Toyshirt. Like for like subs, Mackay Joyner took that left attacking role. Simon Betcher took the right attacking role. Had some Vancouver subs right after that in the midfield. One of the things that I noticed, and I alluded to a little bit earlier, is not just the high pressing from City in the second half, but in the second half, you saw some changes in how they were approaching goal kicks. And for our live stream, I want to show that real quick, but I'll talk through. Marcel Hartle and Conrad Wallem were having some kind of interesting positioning on goal kicks. So looking at a goal kick example, this is a really good one around 76, 77 minutes, where Ben Loon's playing it out of the back. And the only defenders that you really see near him are Timo Baumgartel and Josh Yarrow. You've got 3 attackers from Vancouver that are up near the penalty area around 20, 25 yards out. and you have Alfredo Morales, who's barely in camera shot.
Can you see that?
But what ends up happening,
Miami,
and this is something that I think you give credit to Ben Luke for as well in the distribution. Ben Luke is able to distribute the ball over to Marcel Hartl, wide left. He plays it over to Conrad Wallem, and then right back to Marcel Hartl, who initiates at least an attempt at a
Salt Lake
transition
City in the first
covered
half.
well by Morales in the middle, and they kick it all the way out to Akil Watts on the far right side, leading to one of the potential, I mean, it's not going to get credit for it, so it wasn't a shot, one of the potential actual great opportunities.
St. Louis on the break.
It was Simon Betcher. And so when you go back and look at this, the thing that makes this is something that I think City can and should build off of. It's the unpredictability from a goal
which
kick,
is wonderful to see
playing
from
it
Major
wide
League
in
Soccer.
space to one of your two
Continue
best
to go
ball
forward and
handlers,
break more and more
getting it to
records.
your other one of
Toronto
your two best ball handlers on the field, Conrad Wallem.
In Salt Lake
And
City
it
in the first
enables
half.
Conrad
Nice
Wallem
ball.
to immediately drop
St.
back
Louis
into
on the
that
break
left
here with
back
Watts.
area after he gets the ball up the heart. Now the transition for this in the ability to use both sides of the field in one play is not something that we are used to seeing with St. Louis. The way that this play develops uses every aspect of the field, and it has the entire team working in tandem. You see Akil Watts when this play starts as far to the right wing as possible, and he's just waiting for space. He's open the entire time, and he's just waiting for the opportunity for the ball to find its way over to his side of the field. This is something that I think St. Louis has to expand upon in what they do when Thomas Holland returns. Because this is also a way that you involve Simon Betcher, Cedric Teuscher, even Klaus, if he's able to move up in that position. But you also have Klaus able to navigate the ball,
Salt Lake City
get
in
it
the
to
first
the other
half.
side. This is where Klaus's link and hold-up play really shines through. And get the ball to Klaus in the middle, who's definitely waiting a little more underneath to connect from Marcel Hartl. That's how you're able to get the ball over to Akil Watts. And then Simon Betcher over in the middle, just a hair quicker, a hair more, be a little better quality on the cross. But it was just it was a cross in behind the line, so you can't fault Akil Watts at all. I look at this play as like a microcosm of what should happen when Akil Watts gets that ball opportunity over there on the right side. I'm just seeing from our chat that I had audio on while I was showing that. Well, I'm going to have to fix that on the pod. But yeah, sorry about that, guys. Did not realize I had audio on that. I'll fix that next time. Anyway, when Akil Watts had that crossover, I think that gives you a lot that you can build off of. Moving the ball from one phase to the other, over from the left to the right. It's a great opportunity that I think I want to see more of, not just in the second half as a way to change when the goal kicks come, but be using both sides of the field a little bit more. I think it's a fantastic way that St. Louis will create more opportunities, and we almost nearly scored a goal. So love seeing that kind of thing, right, Santi?
Yeah, that was a great adjustment, great move. But yeah, we need to see more of that. And when you look at the play, just the way City basically opened up the right side, because Vancouver was leaning to the left when Marcel Hartl and Conrad Wallem were linking up on the left side. Like, you can see Vancouver moving to that side and then leaving Akil Watts wide open. So yeah, more opportunities like that to unbalance the defense on the opposing side is what the team should be doing. And the fact that Wallem and Hartel kept switching sides also gives some element on unpredictability. So yeah, I think the team is going on the right track. It's just we need to see the goals and the wins. But yeah, just I like what I saw when the team played Columbus, what the team did last night. I like more the first half than the second half last night. I felt like on the second half, even though City created some chances, it was more Vancouver, and Vancouver had higher possession. And although they didn't have a lot of shots on goal, they had more passes in City's box. But the team is going on the right direction. It's just that those wins and those goals needs to start coming.
Yeah, second half stats. Vancouver had a little bit more possession, but both teams only had one shot on target. They were pretty low in the run of play, but City also had 79% passing accuracy to 86 by the Whitecaps, which the 86 sounds pretty good, but the Whitecaps have been averaging around 91% passing completion rate this season. So we even did a good job at limiting their overall completion percentage in their passing. We were disrupting a little bit more than they were used to. And I think one huge takeaway is the fact that Brian White, the guy who scored a haul, 4 goals last game against Austin, had 1 shot, and it wasn't until 84 minutes. And it was an opportunity that he had in transition where I think he had Timo Baumgartel beat, and Josh Yaro was able to get back. So you're using 2 of your center backs in that moment to protect against deep transition as you're throwing more bodies forward later in the game. It was a good balance. I mean, it's not just great for the whole game to limit Brian White and what he was able to do. That's a massive win for St. Louis when you're able to limit a player of his quality, but also in that one chance where he is so dangerous that he could change a game that quick, you're able to get an extra body, Josh Yaro, in behind him when Timo Baumgartel's kind of marking him initially. So fantastic work in limiting Brian White. I want to shout out Simon Betcher in 92 minutes real quick before we look at some of the takeaways. Simon Betcher had a full field heads down sprint to prevent a wide open pass when Vancouver was trying to build in stoppage time. It was hilarious to watch. If they show it on the broadcast, I don't know if they showed it on the video. Watch Simon Betcher make that run. That was a really, really impressive run. And St. Louis slowed the ball down right after that. I'm sure both him and Toyshirt were kind of winded. That was just a good run. Had to call out Simon Betcher for that late run. And no doubt, Brian White was frustrated in this game and excited for St. Louis to do that. Overall, St. Louis had 45% possession. It was one of their higher possession games, if you can believe that, in recent memory. And so you want to see more of that. You want to see St. Louis able to control the ball, have more possession, because it's going to lead to more passes in the final third. The correlation that exists here is absolutely something that they need to build off of. And they haven't had this much possession in a couple weeks. You know, that it's kind of like a sweet spot for them in a certain way, is getting that as they advance what they're trying to do with their offense, getting into that 45% possession. It lets them do more when they're trying to build it out of the back. And it allows the quality of the players to be maximized, because if you don't believe we have the quality to do what we need to do on the ball, you just need to get the most out of your current players. And I think this was a game where we got the most so far out of players like Akil Watts, Marcel Hartl, Conrad Wallem in the buildup, and definitely the most in the buildup from Josh Yaro and Kyle Hebert, I would absolutely say. Now, Santi, what were some of your other big takeaways? Do you have anything else that we haven't touched on yet as far as the individual players? I don't think we've talked enough about Ben Lunt, possibly.
Well, I wanted to talk about Mackay Joyner.
Yes.
He got significant minutes and he got some touches, show his quality. And I think situations like that, like when you give one of those young players a chance to go at least 15, 20 minutes, that's good for their development. And even against Columbus, he was a late sub, but he looks like he belongs, and he's a good sub, and he can do good things. And Alfredo Morales was talking about the homegrowns, and he mentioned specifically Joyner during the pregame presser. And when Joyner came in, I saw Morales like talking to him and giving him some direction. So it's good to see the veteran players encouraging these young players, but he's showing that he belongs and that he can play in MLS. Hopefully, his minutes will continue ramping up. Maybe we'll see him earlier on second halves. Hopefully, we will see him in Open Cup when the team plays in a couple of weeks. But he did a good job. The minutes he was in the game, not a lot of touches, but yeah, when he got the ball, he got a couple of good crosses. He was involved in the offense, so I like what I saw from him.
And Olaf Milberg had a lot of positive thoughts on Mackay Joyner as well, not just in his role in this game, but also mentioning that he's very versatile, talking about he's a left-footed player. He'll get more deep runs, more crosses, maybe from the left-hand side, while on the right side, he's able to come in a little bit more on the inside, invert, be a little dangerous in those positions. So Olaf talks about pros and cons and what side he plays, but notable that last week in his cameo appearance, Mackay Joyner played more of a left-back role. He stayed defensively, doing the work he needed to do based on whoever else was on the field. And this game, this role, very much an attacking role, taking Salios, connecting up from Conrad Wallem, trying to win some headers, getting his bigger body up in the air. He's taller. I think there's a lot that Olaf is starting to like about Mackay Joyner. Absolutely would expect to see him hopefully start in the U.S. Open Cup here in a couple weeks. But at the very least, I think you like the fact too that we're able to take advantage of what MLS affords these, because the one clarifying thing that we need to address is the roster mechanisms. You have Makai Joyner as an off-roster homegrown. It's a special designation because he's a homegrown player. And when you have an off-roster homegrown, they have restrictions to appear in MLS, just like these short-term loan agreements to a City 2 player, but it's more lax. Like with Brendan McSorley and with Emil Jaskelenin, signed directly to City 2, they can only have 4 short-term loan call-ups throughout the entire season, and they can only appear in up to 2 MLS League matches. So they can do 2 MLS matches, they can do 2 US Open Cup matches, but that's it for them. For Makai Joyner, an off-roster homegrown, along with Tyson Pierce, he's afforded 6 short-term call-ups, and he can appear in up to 6 games for MLS. And it's an unlimited appearance for non-MLS League games. So if we progress 2, 3, 4 matches in the US Open Cup, he can appear in all of those, as well as 6 of those MLS matches. It's a lot more open, it's a lot more lax, and it's incentivizing the use of these homegrowns and to sign homegrown players, because you can have as many of these off roster as you need to. Philadelphia, I think, has like 5 or 6, but it gives you an opportunity to play the kids while still filling your roster with others, and to sign kids to homegrown deals. So there's a lot to like about that. And I think, especially if, we're continuing to deal with the absence of guys like Rasmus Alm or need an extra attacker up front, the development of Makai Joyner is a storyline to follow.
Yeah, for sure. So hopefully he'll continue getting more of these call-ups. And yeah, it's more flexible for the off-roster homegrowns, but aside from non-MLS matches, I think 6 games is still very few. Hopefully, that can be
Yeah.
changed in the future. It's better than what the rule is for MLS Next Pro players, but he has played 2, and he's showing he can do good things, and then it leaves you thinking, like, what if they continue using him, considering the absences due to injuries? He's gonna be done by May, June. So yeah, it's progress on the rule, but I think 6 appearances in MLS games, this is still very few.
All right, Santi. Anything else from this game? I think my last point on this game is about Ben Lunt. He didn't have very many saves because Vancouver didn't have very many shots on target, but it was his second MLS clean sheet, second career clean sheet for Ben Lunt, and it was City's 5th overall clean sheet this season. So when they're still building the narrative of being defensively strong, this kind of rights the ship a little bit. And when you can see that balance of being defensively strong, like City is and has been earlier in the season, with the ability to generate some offense, I mean, you can't ask for anything more except to finish the chances that you generate. That's the one thing that continues to elude City, and it's the thing. Like, you can't minimize the importance of finishing. And yeah, we wax poetic about the defense that we saw in this game, and because Vancouver is the best team in MLS when it comes to goal scoring, when it comes to points, they're the best currently. And I think we held our own against them, even though you always want to take 3 points at home. Plenty of positives to take away from this, but you do need to start riding that ship on finishing. And St. Louis is going to have no shortage in opportunities to do that, Santi, because as St. Louis moves forward, they're going to start to get some fixture congestion on their schedule. Upcoming schedule looks like next Sunday, we have a Sunday night soccer against LAFC in LA. So that's going to be an away game. We have a road trip to Seattle after that, 9:30 on May 3rd. And then at that point, we begin a couple weeks of midweek matches. So from Seattle, we play an Open Cup midweek match against Union Omaha at home. We play at home that next weekend against San Diego, and then home in the following midweek against Sporting KC before going on the road to Minnesota. So you're talking about, in a span of, I don't have the exact numbers, but in a span of like 15 days, you have 5 matches. And things are going to get hot and heavy when it comes to needing to rotate some players. That's when getting Totland and Horn back is going to be extra important. Roman Berkey should hopefully be back by then, because Olaf said it should just be another week or 2 before Berkey's able to be cleared. Getting Berkey and Ben Lunt for these matches is going to be big. There's a big test around the corner for St. Louis. This was the test right now in quality, where we face Columbus, Vancouver, LAFC. The quantity is right around the horizon, where Seattle hasn't been the greatest team so far this season. San Diego has been shockingly good. SKC, yeah, they won this weekend, but they've been a dumpster fire overall, and we are looking for home revenge. There's a lot that's going to be at stake in these next few weeks, even more so maybe than just withstanding the top of the table pressure from Columbus and Vancouver.
Yeah, it's gonna be an important stretch for City and yeah, SKC. Yeah, they haven't. Well, actually, if you think about the last three match days, Sporting KC obviously they beat City. They won last night, so 6 points. So they are catching up
True.
to City, and they had a good win playing away last night at San Jose. They scored 5 goals, so maybe things are starting to click there, and they will be in better form for the next derby against City. But yeah, just good opportunity to regroup. Hopefully, some of these players get healthier, and City can show that progression that he showed in these last two games. Yeah, obviously 1 point of out of six is not great, but considering it was against two of the top teams in the league, and just the eye test, what the team show, chance creation, defensively, I think the team is progressing. Just need to see it with 3 points, and it's not getting any easier just because you go against LAFC that hasn't been a great team this year, hasn't been the dominant team in the Western Conference like they have been in the last
Mm-hmm.
2-3 years, but it's still a place that has eluded City and a team that City has not been able to beat in the league in these 2+ years.
We don't need that reminder, Santi, but thanks for it anyway. Yeah, so a couple other comments from this game and Vaughn from our chat is the Okapu, I don't know what you call it, roll around on the field
Oh,
after
Ocampo,
Connor
yeah.
Wallum kicked him. Yeah, that was entertaining to say the least. And my favorite thing at Energizer Park when something like that happens is every time Okapu touched the ball after he did that, he heard about it. Boos rained
Yeah.
down on Okapu. And that's, I mean, his theatrics are not appreciated at Energizer Park, to say the least. And the fans, they let the opposing players know when that's the case. The Columbus Crew this week, when we're looking at other matches throughout, because it is Easter Sunday as we're recording this, and as we're looking back, no matches from MLS on Easter Sunday. So everybody played on Saturday, including the featured match, the Columbus Crew and Inter Miami. It was Ben Kermashi with the heroics that ended up being the difference maker on that. Columbus couldn't get a goal in against Inter Miami, and Miami did a good job of stifling the Crew. So it wasn't just, as Jerry Hayes said, it wasn't just St. Louis who couldn't score. Columbus couldn't score either. And you had massive differences in goal scoring between Columbus. You had Seattle put 3 up against Nashville. You had Philadelphia put 3 up against Atlanta. The Sporting KC 5-3 win over San Jose, which San Jose has taken quite the nosedive in the standings. We'll talk about the standings in just a second, but that was shocking. Charlotte also put up 3 against San Diego. So there's a lot of goal scoring around the league in a lot of games, but you also had a couple low ones. Austin 1-0 LA Galaxy, 0-0 draw Montreal and Orlando, where Montreal continues to not be able to do anything to a more egregious level than us. And then Minnesota drawing Dallas 0-0. So a good mixture of high scoring games, good mixture of really low scoring games. And you're actually starting to see a fair amount of differences start to emerge in the standings here. Which one of those games, any of them stood out to you from this week?
Yeah, just Seattle winning 3-0 because they had also had their struggles this season, and after LAFC, City visits Seattle. So now City had back-to-back home games. Now he's gonna have to back-to-back away games. So yeah, Seattle is starting to pick things up. Got a win 3-0 against Nashville. So I always like to keep an eye on the next one or two opponents. So that's one that stood out to me.
Yeah, LFC, Olivier Giroud actually had a goal, which
Finally,
may be his first goal of the season, maybe his first goal as an LAFC
I think
player.
so.
Yeah, that was shocking. It's taken this long, but that's not great from a City perspective to have him
No.
get into better form the week before we go there. But yeah, a lot. I mean, plenty of highlights to watch if you're watching MLS wrap up. Plenty of goals to be scored, even though there were some 0-0 matches across the league as well. Now, looking at the standings as we get ready to get out of here, Santi, you've got in the Western Conference, Vancouver still atop the table with 20 points. They're still separated pretty good from the rest of the conference. You have in second place going down Austin and Minnesota with 16 points each, Portland and Colorado with 15 points, San Diego with 14, LAFC with 13, Seattle and Dallas with 12, San Jose with 10, and then Real Salt Lake and St. Louis tied with 9. So St. Louis, after match day 9, sits tied for 11th place with Real Salt Lake with 9 points. We have still 5 goals, 6 goals against, -1 goal differential. Every team has played 9 matches, and so it's still pretty tight in the middle there. And obviously, any decent stretch, stringing together points, stringing together wins, will immediately change the landscape. But in the next couple of weeks, we face an LAFC and a Seattle team that are sitting 7th and 8th, respectively. And we're on the road with both of them. St. Louis now starts a little bit of a road trip over on the West Coast. That'll be interesting to tackle before we get into the fixture congestion of the U.S. Open Cup. Santi, any last words before we get out of here on Easter Sunday?
No, happy Easter, everybody, and hopefully next Sunday we'll talk about a good result. I mean Monday because it's a Sunday match.
Yeah, lunchtime fallout next week. But before that, we'll probably have some midweek content for you for training. And then we'll be back on Thursday evening to preview LAFC in full. Thank you for joining us on this edition of Flyover Footy's Fallout, our 0-0 draw against Vancouver to, finish this couple matches of opponents at the top of the table. I think we're okay moving past this now. I'm Matt Baker. Thank you for joining us. For Santiago Beltran, we will talk to you later.
Vamos, City.
All right. Thanks for joining us, everybody. And thanks to my forgetfulness of turning off the audio to that video that I showed earlier. I've got a little bit of editing on my hands here in a little bit. So enjoy your Easter holiday. Enjoy the start to the week. And it's a rainy day. It's probably going to storm later on in St. Louis too. So